So this is a job where we are redoing the landscaping and all the grass and irrigation after a pool was installed. And I'm just going to do a little video about installing the grass, some tips and tricks and everything that things that we do whenever we install grass in general, but specifically on a job like this. So you can see most of the area around the pool is dirt now, but there is, in this area was leftover grass, kind of sparse, it had gotten messed up, and then you can see where there's some areas where the grass is still good. So what we do is we go through and mark off with paint the areas where we're going to leave the grass because it's still good and it'll come back okay. We also did that here, and then everything that's not marked, this area for example, we just had some sparse grass in areas, so we're just going to redo it all. So we took a weed eater and weed eated everything down to the dirt. And then here, anywhere that was marked, we take a sharp shovel and we cut an edge. And we do this so that when we lay our new grass, it comes up flush with the existing grass instead of sitting up higher and kind of looking ugly. So we cut the edge, scrape some of the dirt away, spread that dirt around and grade the area so that it's level and has the right drainage. Just so you can see a little better, he already did this side. So it just kind of slopes right toward this grass right here. It's cut down. The new grass will come in and sit level with the old grass. Other than that, we come through, rake out all the areas that are unlevel and make sure everything has the correct drainage before we lay the grass. We also have to make sure that any sprinkler heads that were installed, for example, there's a sprinkler head right here. If those heads are sitting lower than the level of the dirt, then they're going to be a little too low whenever they pop up. And so we need to make sure that the top of this sprinkler head is level with the existing level of the dirt. And then when we put the grass, we'll cut a hole so the sprinkler can pop through the grass. And when it pops up, it'll come up high enough to spray above the grass. Same thing with the rotor here. You can see it's pretty much level. It might be a tiny bit above just the top part, which is okay. But if there's any heads that are too low, we'll dig around them and pull them up or raise them, whatever we have to do to raise them so that they'll be level with the dirt. Here's another tip. Right there is a pile of dirt that we ended up left over after we cut down an area that was a little too high. It's got big chunks, but it's got some decent dirt in it too. Right here, there's a trench where we ran sprinklers and it needs to be filled in a little bit so you can't see it after we lay the grass. Instead of getting rid of that pile of dirt and having to bring new dirt, you can reuse some of it. As you rake the dirt, you leave behind the finer stuff and take with you the bigger chunks that you don't want to leave under the grass. You leave that finer stuff to fill in the low spots. And then once all you have left is the bigger pieces, you leave those in a pile and haul them off. Something else that we always make sure whenever we're laying the grass is you never want to lay it, when you lay it down, you don't want the piece to be sitting on top of the other piece, because then you see the edge of it. And you also don't want there to be a gap where you see the dirt. So it's easiest if you lay it out here. So when you drop it, on the outside where there's a little space, and then you just kick it to butt it up against the grass that's already there. And that leaves it nice and flush. Another thing we do is we border all of the perimeter or the edges. So around the edge of the stone, the concrete, the trees, we put a border of grass so that when we lay our grass, we're coming our straight lines this way, we'll come up against the grass that's on the border and we'll make our cuts right there, instead of trying to make a curved cut around the stone, which will end up looking ugly if we lay our grass around it and we just overlap it for now so that we can make the curve, and then we'll come back and cut so that they meet up flush with each other. Cut off the excess, and then the rest we just continue laying our rows in straight lines. Something else we want to make sure we don't do is you always want to stair step the grass. You don't want to jump ahead of a line. You want to keep each row behind the next, so it's stair stepped, because otherwise you end up with lines that aren't very straight. So for example, right here, we don't want to put a piece right there before we put one here, like this. So that would be no longer stair stepped. Instead, you'll put one here first, and then you could put one in that spot. That way you continue with the stair step approach. Also, when we lay the grass, we always want to make sure we start laying the grass along the longest, straightest line that we can find. And in this case, it was the fence. Because up here, we have a lot of curves with the flower beds, the pool deck, trees, things to work around. But we started in that back corner along the fence, and we're running a straight line down the fence. And then we just start stair stepping from there, working our way this direction. When making our cuts, in this case, we laid a row of grass on the border along the stone here in the bull rock, and we ran our lines this direction. And so we overlapped this piece so that we could stagger each row, because you always want to make sure that the grass is staggered. You have one piece here, you don't want another piece exactly on top of it. See, you want the next piece to be staggered, where it comes to about the middle of the first piece you laid. So since we staggered, we had to overlap this piece, which means we have to make a cut. So we look and see that this is the line that the grass is making, the piece that was there first, and this piece is sitting on top. So we'll just take our sharp shovel, make a cut right on that line, pull that piece up, and we have a clean cut there. And then we can use this to fill in the gap here. Lay it down, it still overlaps a little bit. Make that cut. There's a little piece to fill in there. So we want to use as much of the grass as we can and not waste any. Fill that in. This piece right here is overlapped. Cut it. And use it there.